Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the next video training series for data integration. And today we're going to focus on AROWS, or the Air National Guard Reserve Order Writing System, and the report functionality that we find out of there. So right now, if you can see, I'm currently in the Budget Analyst profile. It's a profile that typically most of us probably watching these video tutorials are going to find ourselves in. So under here, under our drop down, you can see that we have the budget analyst, so we can add, copy, or modify days, we can print orders, we can process some other utilities, but we want to go to reports here. Down here, oftentimes people overlook these nice convenient little links, and always pay attention to your broadcast messages. It tells you about your interfaces and any issues that they're currently experiencing. But once we go into reports, there's going to be several different types of report menus. Today I'm going to focus on active duty reports. That'll give you a good understanding of where we want to do. So we want to run a workday report. The first one I'm going to start with showing you is I'm going to show you the workday execution report. This is very convenient to run because it shows you current status of all your workdays. There you can limit it by work center if you need to. All of your work centers will be listed. Fiscal year, I typically run it for just the current. Enlisted or officer is there. You don't even need to check all for workday type, but you could go down and just find certain workday types, special, ADOS, school, if you're worried about MEST. You can also go in and select a WUC if you need to. Just click the hyperlink and a list of WUCs will all pop up and materialize. And then you could go through and decide, okay, maybe I'm only looking for WUC HQ, and then you want to just change that. But I don't care about any of that, so I'm just going to click Generate File. It'll go ahead and wait right here. It won't move, it won't do much, but it will just sit there, and all you're waiting for is down below when the file will open itself up. Now the file is ready to be opened, so we're just going to go ahead and open it. Notice that DEEMS, you're probably used to saving as everything, but AROWS you can just open directly from it. So here we are. We're just going to go ahead and enable our editing right up top so that we can make the changes that are necessary to the document. It'll just go ahead and pop itself back open a few times, and then we're just going to go ahead and enable content so that everything is there and ready for us. So now that we have our data here, remember always when we give our blocks of instruction, we want our header row to be our first row. And if it's not, we're going to get everything else out of its way. So just right click and click delete on row 1, and now you're back in here. Now understand, in AROWS you're going to have to pay attention to formatting if you expect to do it. Anytime you see an Excel file and you see this little green triangle in the upper left hand corner, what it's telling you is that number has been stored as text. You can click in there and then click on this little emergency icon and see exactly that number is stored as text. There's a few different ways to unstore this. You can just highlight them and convert to number. That's an easy way. If you just have an export to another data set, you could set up a values column, just the equal value, and then the cell will give you the number. Or one of the easiest ways is just highlight that column, click on the data header up here in your Excel file, and then just go to text to columns. We're going to use that a lot in some AROWS reports, so I'm going to show it to you really fast. We're just going to go ahead and click Next, Next, and Finish. Now it's going to take all of that data, and now we have numbers. If you want to know if you have a number or not, just go ahead and highlight them. If in the bottom row here you see a sum versus the count, you'll see a sum for a number. If we highlight those same rows right next to it, now all you see is a count because it just sees files. So this data will show you by WUC, by workday type, by officer and enlisted, and by work center the amount issued, currently obligated, committed, and balanced. Understand that obligation means it's been certified, commitments means it's been past a resource advisor level. So if it hasn't gotten to the resource advisor level yet, according to AROWS, it's still not even routing. And then the balance of days is the total of issued minus obligated minus commitment equals balance. And then your percentage obligated does not involve the commitment. The funds are your average type for your pay. So that's your workday execution report. We'll go ahead and save this, and then we'll move on to the next one. So now that we're back here, we just ran our workday execution report. Our workday by type by WUC report, very, very useful when you're balancing to a workday document. So here you have all of your work centers. Just run it as all OWAs and run it for your current fiscal year. And then you just go ahead and click Generate File. So we're going to wait for that information to pop up down below. And this one runs rather quickly, so we're just going to go ahead and click Open and bring our Excel file to light. Now that we have our Excel file open, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to enable editing so that we can do that, and then we're going to enable our content. It's always fun to open up Excel files from all of these different programs. Now again, remember, our header row is not our top row. For this purpose, though, we want to keep the officer and enlister header, so all we're going to do is we're going to delete the top row right here, and I want to be able to do that. One thing you want to check with all AROWS reports right away is when you highlight in the upper left-hand corner this little bottom right angle triangle, click there, it'll highlight the entire sheet. If at any point this merge and center icon found on the home or this button is highlighted, just go ahead and click it one time. It'll now unmerge and center the entire sheet, and now you can begin to format. The reason I say this is very, very useful is when you're over here you can find by WUC, by workday type, what your information is all the way down. So you can go through your special training days, your ADOS days, your school days, and compare them exactly to, in the issued column by officer and enlisted, what data you have versus what you should have according to checkbook. So when you're in here, there's your issued, and it will show you your balance, which is your balance is issued minus obligated minus commitment, and then all of your dollars. So occasionally how I do it is I just come through here and I say I don't really need to balance any of that document information. So I'm just going to highlight all of those cells there and get rid of them. Because I'm just going to right click and click delete. I'm going to shrink that down. Now it's only one page wide, and I'm able to go through while I'm confirming against my workday document, making sure that I don't have any balance issues that we need to really, really pay attention to. So now we've looked at all of that data. We're going to go ahead and close out the workday by type by WUC and show you the next report. So welcome back. The next report we're going to look at is the workday by type by member report. This will break down every workday performed by member, by WUC, by type, by date this year. It's very useful. It's similar to an STH, but for workdays versus actual funding. So we're going to let this run. I'll open it up, I'll enable content and enable editing, and we'll see where we go from there. Alright, so now we have an editable report. So remember, what we're going to do first is we're going to get our header up to the top, so delete row 1. Now we have our header at the very top line. And something that I noticed by clicking in this upper left-hand icon, I'm just going to unmerge and uncenter this entire sheet. This may take just a second because note there is 65,000 records in here, but now we have a sheet that we can go through and take a look at. So we have our traditional technician, temporary tech, AGR, temp AGR, last name, first name. First name in AROWS is something you need to pay special attention to. Last name can be any length, but the first name is capped at 10 characters. So if your name is Christopher, according to AROWS, your name is Christoph with an E, and it just ends. So make sure you pay attention to that when you're doing any formatting. But it gives you every bit of information about that order, the WUC, the order type, the workday type, the certified date, the start date, the end date, and the total amount of work days. But now notice, when I highlight these dates, it just gives me a count. So these are stored as text. We don't want dates as text. So remember that little trick we learned about the text to columns filter earlier? It works fantastic when we look at dates specifically. Before, when we just clicked finish for a number, but now for a date, we want to look at this and say, okay, well this is a year, month, day. So we want to choose year, month, day in the drop down. Go ahead and click on that. Notice the radio button clicked in, and just click on finish. And now it reformats to now where if I highlight, it shows me the sum of the data. So now I'm going to do that for both the cert date and the start date. And the reason I do this is I bring this information into other products to do some analysis on, especially on when our orders are being performed. And when you bring that data in, it's a little bit more difficult to write the formula to pull all the information out of there rather than just doing that. For the work days, again, remember you're just getting a count, so you'll want to probably go in if you're going to do any mathematics or pivots or anything out of here and just get those into data. So that's the workday by type by member report. It is an STH because now I could filter out all of these WUCs that I ran on the workday execution and figure out exactly who's been approved and who has not been approved. Notice that this is past, current, and future order types. So we'll close this and look at the next report. The last report that we're going to show you quickly is the Personal Management Report. This is your PMR, and it shows all of your active duty and what AROWS shows as inactive duty performance for the year. So we'll go ahead and let this run, open it up, and then I'll give you a brief rundown on what the report is looking like. Alright, so all I've done is I've enabled content, I've deleted the top line, and I've unmerged and uncentered. But now notice again we have all of our demographic data here. But now what we have is a total performance by member for approved orders, both past from the beginning of the fiscal year, today, and future to the end of the fiscal year. So this doesn't show performance, this shows expectation on the active duty side. So we have our ADOS total, our AGR total, our annual, our BMT, our MPA, our school, our special, and everything else. But then it goes into inactive duty, and this is where it gets a little different. If we jump over inactive duty though for 1 second, we'll notice our passcode here. Now our total active duty days and our total annual remaining days. Remember that the law is 15 that we need to give of active duty, not of annual training. So this will tell you how many more annual days you should probably expect because they haven't found it elsewhere. Now for any of these inactive duty types, please be sure that you're aware that these only add up after the authorization has not only been certified, but the certification has fully routed and been signed. Until that time, if anybody has anything pending, it's not in this data report. So do pay attention to that when you're doing your planning. But those are the AROWS active duty reports that you should be paying attention to. There are others that we'll cover in a miscellaneous reports video. But thank you for coming, and look forward to talking to you next time.